I've never seen Microsoft so unprepared or angry. I haven't seen Microsoft this unprepared since I leaked the Xbox Series S. Okay, that might even be, that is not even close to to where Microsoft is right now. So if you've been living under a rock, and honestly, I'm pretty jealous because I've been glued to the Twitter's X or whatever it's called this week about what is going on with Microsoft in its very weird relationship with OpenAI. And we've learned a lot about how these two companies are working together. And there's just so much to dive into that I have rewritten the script for this video, I think 3 times now. And now that things appear to finally, probably, mostly be settled, I think it's kind of time to peel back the onion that really just happened here, because it is cataclysmic. And this is very unprecedented for Microsoft, who is very, pretty often articulate about how it goes to market with things. So let's just dive in here. So starting late last week on Friday, Sam Altman was just removed as the CEO of what is easily the hottest quote unquote startup or tech company on the planet. There is no real qualification here. It is by far, OpenAI is it. And so he wakes up, gets a phone call on Google Meet of all things, by the way, and he is now no longer the CEO, and just pandemonium, Pandora's box, an avalanche of craziness had begun. So this happens, and as we have learned out, Microsoft was completely unaware. They were given literal minutes of heads up, like, hey, we know you've given us like more than $10 billion. We're firing our CEO. Hope you're happy, bro. Good luck. And Microsoft obviously was not prepared for this at all. So Satya Nadella, and this is so out of the ordinary for Microsoft, like extremely out of the ordinary, at roughly 3 a.m. on November 20th, just a few days ago, starts tweeting out, and conversations are going, because there's a lot at stake here, right? Microsoft has, last week at Ignite, basically came out and said, look, like, we are so in bed with OpenAI that all of our stuff is being powered by their things, and this is such a big deal. And so when this happens at the end of the day, your CEO has to go on Twitter and like calm the markets. And for the CEO, Satya Nadella, to be doing this at such a late and odd hour to really calm the markets, that Microsoft has a long-standing deal and everything is fine, is completely unprecedented. Microsoft is very particular about how it goes to market. It likes to use times like 6 a.m. or 9 a.m. They do not do it in this fashion. So you could really get the sense that Microsoft was back on its heels, trying to get out from under this news that is now weighing down their entire company, and let's be clear, like their entire future. So it like doesn't even get close to ending there. So as Sam Altman gets removed, OpenAI, the staff who were there, are like, what just happened? We thought we were in the good times. And so, for lack of better terms, the entire company signed on and said, look, if you don't put Sam Altman back, we are all leaving, literally leaving. And OpenAI, a couple days ago, had a non-zero chance of completely collapsing. The hottest tech startup on the planet had a decent chance of completely collapsing in under a week because of what the board had done. Now, there's questions about what the board had done from, we still don't know the full story there, right? Because the board came together and they said that Sam Altman hadn't been completely transparent about what is happening. And that's all that we have really heard. It's been really, really weird about what has actually led to him being kicked out the door. Like, we haven't gotten this clear and definitive answers like, hey, he came in and he was selling stuff on the side in a black market or something crazy like that. We have heard literally nothing about anything that would potentially justify kicking him out the door. And so the board has been under a massive spotlight because it's like, what were you doing? What was the justification for this? So much so that the co-founder of OpenAI, who was on the board, and actually I believe the chairman of the board, said he regretted his vote. And it's like, oh my God, what just happened? Like this is you screwed around and now you're finding out. There's other terms for that, but we are on YouTube here, so we're keeping it family friendly. And so OpenAI in absolute turmoil, and all the staff are threatening to walk out the door. Now, on the side of this, like what's happening here? So again, late into the evening hours or morning hours, however you want to describe it, Microsoft and Sam Altman, or Satya and Sam Altman, just on, as bros do on Twitter or X or whatever, They're just like saying, look, all right, we're all joining Microsoft, and Satya Nadella replying to Sam Altman, which again, for the CEO of what is Microsoft, the second largest company on the planet, unprecedented. These two are just yapping it out on Twitter saying, okay, well, Sam's just going to join Microsoft. Like, that's the thing. Like, Sam Altman is joining Microsoft. He's going to get a blue badge. He's going to have to go through new employee orientation, just like everyone else. And he's going to start this new team. Like, first off, couple things here. One, besides the fact that this is happening on Twitter like this is hilarious to me. This is really good leadership by Satya Nadella, in my opinion. First off, he is out on the forefront. He is not waiting for PR approval. He's not going to their blog. He is out in the public, laying it out on the line and being just brutally attacking this PR nightmare of a scenario the best that he can. Again, Microsoft is typically very calculated and precise about how these things go out. I promise you that tweet, he was not just sitting there in his office, just, feet up on the desk. This was probably a boardroom sort of thing. Either way, or war room as they call it. Either way, Satya Nadella very much on the front lines, making sure communication is heard and present, which is what you would expect from something like this. And it's a very rare insight into his actual leadership style that we don't get to see, honestly, all that often. So going on from there, other executives are saying, like, look, all these people, the 770 people who signed on for the letter, like, to walk out, like, every single one of you, literally every single one of you can just join Microsoft. Like, Microsoft is going to, and this was the narrative for a while, is like Microsoft's going to effectively take over OpenAI because the board collapsed the company with a crazy move, and all these employees are going to walk into Microsoft, get a blue badge, get their same compensation, just, it's like nothing happened, and now they're working inside of Microsoft. For Microsoft, this is honestly the best outcome. Well, it would be chaos, absolute chaos, trying to get all this stuff up and running, because we would assume that, hey, 770-ish people walk out of OpenAI, ChatGPT is going to fall over and die. Like, somebody's got to be there to maintain the servers and watch capacity, pay the bills, and literally everything else to run a company. And so it would be pandemonium until Microsoft could get this thing up and running to swap out their own Copilot stuff. But that's what they were willing to do. That's why they have a war chest, even though they spent nearly $70 billion dues on Activision. They have the war chest that they can just absorb this and then figure it out later. Considering how much Microsoft is already in bed with OpenAI, this was not an unexpected outcome. Microsoft would buy OpenAI. I can almost guarantee it if they could. I doubt that they can. I bet that they would be swooped up when regulatory processes and the FTC and everything else, because it's not like games. Like, this is Microsoft's core business where OpenAI would live, and I doubt that they would actually be able to do that. However, if it's not a hostile takeover, like if the board screws up and the company's going to collapse, Microsoft's a creditor with all the money that they've invested. Yikes. It is just crazy. So then moving on from there, after Satya goes on Twitter, it's like, Sam is joining Microsoft. He started doing these interviews really quickly. There was like Bloomberg, there was CNBC, he was on a couple podcasts. And the messaging was starting to change. It wasn't Sam Altman is going to join Microsoft. It was like he might join. He has the option. And it became clear at about this point when he was doing this that it was a little bit of backtracking from some of the tweets, right? It was really felt like him, like, okay, saying he could join the company. He has the option. We might do this sort of thing. And this is what I mean, Microsoft, not unprepared, but not in the position it likes to be, where it's got to kind of clarify and qualify its statements. Like, Sam was an employee-ish, or he might, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, he could be. And so that was very much an orchestrated PR event by Microsoft, which was smart to get the message out there, like, okay, Sam may not actually join. And then starting this morning, we hear that Sam Altman is now going to be back at OpenAI. Like, if you fell asleep on Wednesday and you woke up on Wednesday from 1 week period, nothing would have changed, except you would have probably heard some ruckus about, hey, there's a couple new OpenAI board members, and that's where we are today. Now, this was very, very interesting for so many different reasons, because during all this process, OpenAI, when they didn't have their CEO that they fired on Friday, was going crazy. Apparently, they were going to try to merge with Anthropic CEO, and I believe the Anthropic CEO was formerly of OpenAI a couple of years ago. And they're like, hey, what if we just merged? Like, what? How is that going to work out? They also apparently contacted Nat Friedman. As we all know now, their interim CEO was a co-founder, I believe, of Twitch, and he wasn't universally loved, but is respected, and he's very technical, but maybe not a great leader, which is a totally different skill set for CEOs. But either way, apparently, Anthropic was or OpenAI was like going to merge. And what? Yeah, that seemed crazy. And so again, we're back in this weird sort of spot where we're still waiting to understand like what was the sin that Sam did. And why did Microsoft have to like swoop in and run through all these gamuts? And apparently Satya and Sam are like BFF now, and Satya had Sam's back, and that was part of the leverage that probably got him back in there. What is fully going to happen to the board? More importantly, is the board liable? And I am not a lawyer, but is the board of OpenAI liable in any meaningful way, right? They came out and said, look, we're going to fire this guy. Investors in the company were very clearly not aware of this. Did they breach their contract as a board of directors? I don't know. We don't know what the official reasoning was. What were these discrepancies that got Sam pushed out the door? Now, there's rumors flying around that maybe he was leading it in a direction that they didn't think was agreeance with the charter of OpenAI or something along those lines. But either way, it doesn't matter. Sam is back. There's some new board members, and OpenAI is once again, quote unquote, whole, if you will. But Microsoft is still like battered and bruised on the side because like, hey, this happened once. Could it happen again? Could OpenAI, something happen to it? It has a very weird organizational structure, and Microsoft very clearly is vulnerable on that. And it's been known, right? Google Bard, while it is not nearly as good as OpenAI, at least Google owns it, and so it can't walk away. OpenAI, in theory, is a separate entity, and even though Microsoft has a large stake in the profitable portion of OpenAI, they're still vulnerable, like when you're that dependent on an external party. So yeah, that has been like the nutshell version. I'm leaving out a lot of details here, but I just find it fascinating how on the heels Microsoft has been. It's very rare that you see a company of that size and that caliber and who is typically very well orchestrated scrambling a bit. Like you look at how polished they were through the entire FTC process. They completely knew that coming. Most announcements are all very well orchestrated. And then here you go, very clearly they were caught off guard, which is just a fascinating insight into how the giant corporations deal with a PR crisis like this. So anyways, this is like, I think the third and a half script that I've written for a video. Hopefully this one lasts for like 48 hours and like Sam Altman doesn't end up back a Microsoft employee and something happens and then I got to redo it. But there you go. If you've been lucky enough to live under a rock, congratulations, you are now caught up on the biggest drama in tech for a while. And if you haven't, make sure you keep subscribed here because only BS on this podcast is me. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.